Good morning, June and George. It's July 14th, Thursday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. here in Sudbury, a beautiful morning in Sudbury. And I decided that it was high time to once again send you a tape after a long, long lapse, for which we may have a partial excuse, but I want you to know we've thought of you many times there on Camano Island. This was the year that we were supposed to get out there and visit with you, and we're not going to be able to do so this year, and I'll explain that in a minute. I want to fill you in on what's been happening, and it has to do with Zan's health. If you recall, back in December of 1981, Zan had to go to the hospital to have an abscess removed from her colon. She came through that all right. It was quite a painful period of time for her, but she recovered. But they had diagnosed her condition as that of having ulcerative colitis. So she was put on a regimen of a drug called prednisone, which is a form of cortisone, as well as a very strict bland diet, non-fibrous foods. And she held to that diet and the prednisone all during 1982 and is still holding to the diet, and she has kept the colitis pretty well under control. We lived a pretty normal life. We went out to the lake in Ohio, did all the usual things, spent Christmas of 1982 in Blue Ridge Summit with Nancy and George and their family. In March of this year, Zan and I went to Washington. I went down as president of the State Association for Retarded Citizens, state of Massachusetts. We attended a legislative affairs seminar there, got to see a lot of Congress people. And it was while in Washington that Zan complained of a mass in her abdomen, and it wasn't hurting her, but it was something there that shouldn't be there. And when we came back, we took her right over to the doctors, and they felt that she had what's called a fibroid tumor, and they decided they would operate on her. So on our 38th anniversary, which was April 7th, they performed 3.5-hour surgery on Zan. And the upshot of that was that they had found a malignant tumor, an ovarian cancer. They removed both of her ovaries, which had swollen to the size of a couple of apples, and did a complete hysterectomy on her, and they weren't able to get all of the cancer out, because much of it was affixed to the side of the intestine and colon area, and it would have been dangerous to do this. She recovered from the surgery, and they put her on a regimen of chemotherapy, for which she took two treatments of chemotherapy, each treatment about a month apart, and each treatment consisting of 3 very heavy drugs. One of the drugs is called cisplatinum. It's a liquid, a red liquid, and it is platinum, and it's highly toxic. Well, the upshot of that was that 3 weeks ago they had a big conference about her situation, and they decided that the chemotherapy was not doing the job. It was not killing the cancer cells, and so the cancer was still growing, and the particular regimen of chemotherapy had done damage to her kidneys, and they decided that there was an alternative chemotherapy regimen that she could be put on, but it was a less desirable one because one of the drugs in that program was also very toxic and could damage the kidney even more. So last weekend we had to face a decision. Should she take this second chemotherapy treatment they were suggesting, which had a remote chance of knocking out the cancer, but at the same time would be very risky because of the possible kidney failure? Or should she reject any idea of any more chemotherapy and wait for the tumor to take over her intestinal tract? It was a choice of whether Zan should die of uremic poisoning or by constriction of the bowel. So it wasn't a very pleasant outlook last weekend, but there's a happy ending. About 48 hours ago, she had a pelvic exam, and the doctor realized that the tumor might be going down a bit. He didn't find the fluid buildup that he had expected, and he came to the conclusion, and he went into a huddle with the other oncologists on her case and decided that yes, the chemotherapy has been effective, and it has had a delayed reaction. In her case, it's just taken a little longer for it to start acting somewhat favorably. So, as of right now, we're working with cautious optimism that we may have passed a crisis in her condition. She's over at the hospital. She went in yesterday to have the third treatment, which is part of the original program, and I'll be picking her up today and bringing her back. And it's almost as though a great weight has been lifted off of us right at this moment, because the doctors are quite elated at what they see developing. And we have reason to feel pretty good right at this point. When I bring her home, she'll probably be nauseous and sick the rest of today and very likely tomorrow, but by Saturday she should be feeling better, and we're going to celebrate by getting in the car and driving down the coast of Maine to Bar Harbor and Acadia National Park. She has expressed a desire to see that area once again. We were there about 8 years ago, and we'll take 4 or 5 days off just to relax and enjoy things. I'll tell you, George and June, it's given me a chance to think about some pretty heavy matters. I mentioned our anniversary. We've been married 38 years. I've known her for 43 years, and you can't live that long with somebody without some pretty deep feelings. And I've been on kind of a roller coaster, up and down, and she's been just great through this whole thing. She's been a tower of strength and serenity, and taking the attitude she's going to live to the utmost from day to day and enjoy life while she's got it. We actually had a prognosis of from 3 to 6 months up until a few days ago, but now maybe things are going to be better and she will be around for some time. Turning to happier things, This has been a year of remodeling for us. I don't know whether you remember we had said we were going to build a sunroom and an addition on this house. Well, we did it, and we've had a wonderful time doing it, even through this health problem that we've had. It's kept Zan occupied. It's kept me occupied. We had the foundation put in last fall, and it stood over the winter. And in March, the contractor came, and he took 5 weeks to the day to erect an addition on the south side of our house, which is a sunroom with casement windows. It's an extension 8 feet out by 20 feet long, and then on the back side of the house we've put a big porch, 12 by 16, screened-in porch with a sliding glass door that goes out to it. We have skylights in the sunroom and big casement windows that let in a lot of light, and it has just transformed this little box-like house into a thing of beauty. It almost, as I sit here, it could almost be a photograph in House Beautiful magazine, really. And we've been a long time doing the decorating, the wallpapering, and the new floor, and the new wall-to-wall carpeting, and we put new vinyl covering in the kitchen, and I laid a ceramic tile hallway when you come in the front door, and we've got it all. We've got this thing so color coordinated that our own clothes don't go with it. We're going to have to get new clothes to go with it. It's that terrific. And then we have this big porch out on the back, which is just so great, and we can just walk right out there from the kitchen dining area and enjoy the birds and the bees and the flowers and the scenery, and here we have this beautiful place, just the two of us. We should have had it when our kids were growing up, but you know how that is. Zan and I have had a lot of fun working on this together, and this, combined with her illness, has brought us together even more closely than ever before, and I, for one, realize how much she means to me, and I'll just have to say that the thought has crossed my mind more than once. If she should pass away, what kind of a life would I be able to make for myself? I'm steeled for this, but I'm certainly not ready to accept it graciously at this point. I can accept. I mean, I will accept it when it comes, but I don't look forward to that. We've been together too long, and we've done too many things together. I'm getting a little too serious, I guess, so I'll get back on a lighter note. I have not retired yet. My announced plans were to have retired the end of this year, and tentatively that still holds good, except that the thought has also crossed my mind, if Zan should pass away, that I might continue to work for another year or two, just as a form of therapy, just to keep busy and keep active, and not have too much time on my hands to sit around and brood. So that's a little bit indefinite. Tentatively, I probably will retire if Zan is okay, and we can enjoy things. We're not hurting for money, and Um, I'd like to just, I've been spending a lot of my spare time on Massachusetts Association for Retarded Citizens work. That takes a lot of my time, aside from cryovac time. I've the company, incidentally, has been very good during Zan's illness, and I have not traveled very much. I've stayed close to home, done a lot of work at my desk and on the telephone and in correspondence, but made it a point to keep pretty close during all this period of time she's had these problems. I'd like to just say once again what a pillar of strength Zan is. She certainly has shown her true colors. I was saying that Zan has shown her true colors throughout all this, um, and I certainly admire her for it. Turning to a couple of other subjects, in May I did take a weekend off, and I went down to New Jersey to attend the 50th reunion of my high school graduating class at Kearney High School, Kearney, New Jersey. The class of 1933 had its 50th reunion, and it was the first reunion the class had ever had, and this was just a wonderful affair. One of our classmates, I stayed with him, by the way, he's a lawyer and still living in the same hometown. He organized this thing, and he spent almost 2 years researching, digging out names and addresses and locations of everybody. There were about 240 people in the original class, and 83 of us attended the reunion, and many of them brought their spouses. Zan didn't come down with me, but there were about 140 people altogether at the big dinner we had on Saturday night, and I got to tell you, it was a fascinating experience for everybody, and the vibrations were very warm, and it was an unusual class in the first place, and they came from all over. They came from as far as France, Belgium, Houston, Texas, California, Florida, the Virgin Islands, and all points in between. And the people, it was amazing. Many of the guys I could recognize immediately. They hadn't changed that much, except for the gray hair and the thinning out of their hair and so forth. But the women, it was difficult to recognize any of the women. You just couldn't. Their hairdos, everything was so different about the women. And this one gal, Eunice Lawson, that I was always sort of sweet on in high school, she didn't give me much of a tumble. She was absolutely unrecognizable, and it turned out she was the one that came from France. She married a rich Frenchman who owns a home in Nice, France, which is a resort area on the coast of France, and also they have a home in Southampton, Long Island. So they're members of the international set, and it's probably a good thing she didn't marry me, because look what would have happened to her. But we really had a great time, and if you ever get a chance to attend something like that, George and June, you'll just love it. I'll talk about the family just a little bit. All of our children are doing fine. Lucinda is in Portland. She has a good job with the Union Mutual Insurance company there. She's not in charge of their printing operation, but she's in some sort of managerial position, which I guess she's assistant to the manager or something like that. the latest thing with her is she has an application in with the University of Maine to be director of publications for them, and she thinks she could do a good job with that, and I think she could too. So she's kind of waiting on that one. Nancy and George are fine. Their children are fine. Growing up, um, we see them at Christmas time, of course, and also 2 or 3 times during the year. They either come here or we go there. um, Danny is still out in Toledo, living in his grandfather's house. He's just completed his um, his courses for his master's degree in business administration at University of Toledo. He's getting his degree in August, and he has his application out with 3 or 4 transportation companies, I guess, for jobs in the transportation field. He's still unmarried, still drives a couple of motorcycles and 2 or 3 cars, and is still good old Dan. And he's turned out to be quite a family member. He's interested in the genealogy of our family and has brought all of our roots up to date. He'll be here in August. Let's see, Teddy is living in an apartment in Alston, which is right by Cambridge, and he works in Waltham at Mobile Solar Research Corporation. It's a division of the Mobil Oil Company, and they make silicon panels for solar energy. And of course, he's always been interested in this subject, and he's all wrapped up in his work. He's taking a course in computers at Harvard, and plans to take more courses this fall, which will ultimately get him a degree, which he never did get, by the way. You know, he went to University of Massachusetts and then transferred to McGill University in Montreal for a year, and finally didn't go back to McGill, and he completed about 2.5 or 3 years of college, but never did get his degree. And I guess he's coming around to the idea that maybe he ought to complete his degree, and so he's going to do it the long, slow way, probably by night courses and this sort of thing, which is fine. And then Andy is still living in the apartment down in Natick, doing fine, enjoying life. We don't see as much of him now because he's more his own person. He's not dependent on us. He's got his friends. He and an apartment mate named Leonard flew to Cleveland about 10 days ago to spend 10 days out at the lake with Nancy, who is there with her kids, and Zan's sister Deanie, who is there, and cousin Kate, and a few others. So Leonard and Andy have been out at the lake, and they're flying back this very day. Today, they'll be getting into Logan Airport around 5:30 this afternoon, and somebody from the staff will be picking them up. I doubt if I'll be going in. Well, it depends on what Zan's situation is. But the family is doing fine, and everybody's holding together real good. They visit here relatively frequently. We see somebody in the family among our children every 3 or 4 weeks. We're visiting back and forth, so the family means a great deal to me, particularly during these periods of Zan's health. And so we've had a lot of support, both from family and from friends. This tape has talked mostly about ourselves, and I want you to know that we want to know how you are, we think of you a lot, uh, and regret that we won't be coming to Camano this year. Uh, we're anxious to know how you're doing, and can only picture you as doing well and having uh, a good life together. Uh, by the way, talk about myself for just a second. I'm in disgustingly good health. George, you'd be proud of me. I've kept my weight trim. My waist is a nice slim 34. I'm trying to get it down to 33. I'm running 2.5 miles 3 days a week. I feel just great. I have nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with me except a possible slightly arthritic right thumb. And that's not bad for a dirty 67-year-old man, don't you think, George? Changing the subject for just a second, I mentioned earlier about our new porch and sitting out there watching the birds and the bees. We have had the most wonderful assortment of birds this summer in our backyard. We got ourselves a couple of bird feeders. They're called the Droll Yankee bird feeder. They hang down. They're a long column. One of them is filled with thistle seeds and the other is filled with sunflower seeds. And we've got them close to the porch. And we've had goldfinches, purple finches, rose-breasted grosbeak, titmice, chickadees, of course, cardinals, pine siskins, towhees, blue jays, no English sparrows, no starlings except those on the ground. And I tell you, these birds are just fascinating they're eating us out of house and home. I'm spending more money on bird seed than I am on our own food. So here I am, an old man, watching the birds. How do you like that? I guess I always was for the birds. I'll do a little philosophizing at this point. The Zan sickness has brought me around to doing some fairly heavy thinking about life in general. And one thing that I'm learning is that the power of positive thinking is a wonderful thing. I got a paper-bound copy of a book called Getting Well Again, written by Dr. Carl Simonton. He's an oncologist in Texas, and his writing is aimed directly at patients and loved ones of people who are facing problems of cancer. And it's a very good book in that it tells you how you can think positively about this serious illness and really gain from it, because there are many good things that can come out of an evil thing. You can build some inner strengths. You can profit by the strengths of someone else, and you can pass along whatever strengths you have to others. I've tried to convey the fact to my children that all of us are going to die sometime. We accept that. It's not pleasant, but to be able to live and then die in some form of serenity and peace with yourself, I think is is one of the highest degrees of success that a person could attain. And watching Zan throughout all this accept what may come, and in such a serene way, and also at the same time thinking positively that she's been an inspiration to me and to our children, and I just hope that I'll be able to do the same. You can't live for 67 years and not benefit from a few of the lessons of life, and I like to think that I've had a good life, and so has Zan, and we've had a few problems over the years, and been able to get through that. And I'm just thankful that our health is as good as it is, and we want to get Zan back. She, incidentally, she doesn't look sick. She is up and around. Her color is good. She gets out and weeds in the garden. She takes long walks. She does many things just as though she were like anybody else. This is true of many cancer patients. You wouldn't know they were sick. I didn't know that till this problem hit us. George and June, this tape is winding down. It's time to close it. We love you both. We think of you. We don't deserve a tape very soon back, but if you feel in the mood and would like to